Hola y bienvenidos. Quiero darle las gracias a todos que nos acompañen en esta mañana para tomar un café y charlar con la delegada Candi King. Estamos muy ansiosos para hablar con ustedes sobre las actualizaciones para el distrito. Tomen un momento para ponerse cómodo y sintonizarnos. Gracias. Hello and welcome. Thank you everyone for joining us this morning for coffee and chat with Delegate Candi King. We cannot wait to share with you the upcoming updates for our district. Please take a moment to get comfortable and tune in. Thank you.
Well, good morning, good morning, good morning. Thank you so much for having coffee with me this morning. I'm Supervisor Andrea Bailey, and I'm your supervisor in the Potomac District while serving as the Vice Chair for the Board of County Supervisors. We have an excellent discussion this morning for you, and I'm proud and exceptionally excited about bringing forth your delegate, Candi King, who is serving in House District 2 for us here in Prince William County in the Potomac District. And so I'm glad because Candi wanted to come and just talk to you this morning about the great work that the General Assembly is doing in Richmond, but most of all, what Candi has done for your community, for House District 2, and serving in the Potomac District. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm extremely proud to serve with Delegate King in House District 2. I introduce to you Delegate Candi King.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me and all the great work that you're doing in our district. I'm a proud resident, as most people know, of the Potomac District. But for those who don't know, I'm Delegate Candi King. I represent House District 2 and the Virginia General Assembly. And I'm excited this morning to share with you all of the great work we've been doing over the last session and continue to do to protect families and move Virginia forward. And I'm excited to share how those things impact the second district, including the Potomac District. So thank you so much, Supervisor Bailey, for having me.
Well, Delegate King, I am honored. I know we had to work around your schedule because you were so busy hitting the ground running, just taking care of the citizens here in Prince William County. And I know that you had to win the election first. So in a special election. So give us a little view about how that operation went for you and how you were introduced and ushered in and presented to the General Assembly.
Absolutely happy to share that. So, I tell people there's no way that you could have told me 4 months ago that I would sit here as a member of the oldest legislature in the Western Hemisphere. And I'm very honored and humbled by that experience, but it started much longer ago. So I'm a first generation college graduate. My family grew up in poverty. I'm a native Virginian, but for many people in my community, higher education just never seemed like an option. So I was very fortunate to attend Norfolk State University and study political science. And in my studies, I learned so much about advocacy and action and how to turn your ideas into legislation. And so before I even graduated, college, I started organizing students for higher education funding. And then I went on to start my career in the Virginia General Assembly. So I actually worked in the General Assembly many, many moons ago. And that was an important part of why I ran for the seat. So, a few months ago, the seat became open as our former delegate, Jennifer Carroll Foy, resigned to focus on running for governor. And so when I heard the announcement, I'm a working mom. I work a 9 to 5 or sometimes a 6 a.m. to midnight.
Yes, yes,
So,
yes.
when I heard about the seat and the knowing Virginia law and how quickly these elections have to be turned around, often less than a month, I really prayed about it and thought about how could I best serve my community. I work with young people in the community. I work with, I'm a former Girl Scout troop leader. I volunteer at local high schools. I work with the special needs community. And so I just love this community. So I really prayed about how could I best serve. And what I came to the conclusion of, we needed someone who could hit the ground running. So I threw my hat into the ring. With 5 days, I won the nomination to become the Democratic nominee. And then I went on to win the special election against the other party. And I went to Richmond and really did what this community asked me to do. I hit the ground running to make sure we had a strong recovery from COVID-19. And I'll tell you, having experience in the General Assembly really helped me to be able to usher in great legislation and get things passed. But the virtual element, we
Challenge. Challenge
was a bit of a challenge, but it was the safest. It was the safest thing.
Yes.
So I'm so grateful to the leadership in the House that they decided to have a virtual session because when you're a working mom, and you want to serve, and we need more working moms in the General Assembly who understand what's facing families. When that's your reality, and then you add the virtual element, that part took a little adjusting to.
Yeah, I know. But you did hit the ground running, and you were very diligent and very focused in doing so. And I certainly thank you for the level of support that you rendered to me as I was preparing to run for office and won during that time frame, and your continual support and communication with me and for me in my role as well. So I'm gonna segue now into what I think a lot of our constituents, and they are our constituents, want to hear.
Absolutely.
How has the seat been sitting for you? I knew that'd make you laugh, but it's a very poignant and important question. How has the seat been sitting for you?
I am one who believes that, sitting and being elected by your community to represent your community is such an honor. So it is not me. It is not about me. I am humbled to represent our community, but this is really our seat. It has been our seat. I've spent, hours working with folks in the community. So because lesser known part of the job is constituent services. And that is something that you, Supervisor Bailey, I have to say, that is something that you have set such a high standard for the way you interact and go out in the community. So the seat has been sitting well for me because I've been sitting in the seat with all of us, helping people get access to state departments and state aid, and helping people navigate the registration process to get vaccinated. Those are the types of things that I've laser focused on in terms of sitting in this seat and providing service to the community.
Well, I have to tell you that it is a very comfortable seat for you from where I sit and look at and support. You do wear it well, and you have been very focused on blending with the rest of the delegation from Prince William County. And I see that they have a high degree of respect for your work, and they have a high degree of respect and reliance upon you in that seat. And but it comes from, as you know, we sit in a district where there are a plethora of senators and delegates that we serve with. We serve with the Appropriations Chair, Delegate Luke Torian, as well as Senator Scott Cervo and Elizabeth Guzman and Jeremy McPike. And so I am so honored that I have all of you to help me get my job done. So you wear it well. And I know that in that seat, I can come to you with what the citizens are coming to me about, and we can work together as a group to get it done. So I want you to talk a little bit about, if you will, Delegate King, what are some of the things when you hit the ground running? What are some of the things that you've accomplished in Richmond for us?
Sure. So, speaking in a broader terms, we've had great progress this session, and everyone has wanted to talk about the larger things. But for me, one of the proudest moments is my bill, House Bill 2316, which establishes criteria for special education eligibility. Virginia previously had no criteria, so students were getting differentiating types of services. So what a student would receive in one county would be totally different from the other counties. And for students with special needs, they are already, experiencing issues, right? They're already experiencing struggles. And so it was important to me to have legislation that would level the playing field, so to speak, for our special needs students. Another important piece is our pay raise for our teachers, our state and local employees, also providing sick leave for home healthcare workers. So we have, amazing people in our district who provide home health aid for families of senior citizens and people with special needs. And we were able to put our money where our mouth is, right? And provide them with leave. During the pandemic, everyone is, support our heroes. But it was important to me that we did that not just in word, but in deed. And so we put funding and legislation in place to provide paid sick leave for our home healthcare workers. Another thing that I'm extremely excited about is our G3 program, which will provide tuition-free community college. We are fortunate to have an amazing community college in our community, and we're able to provide tuition-free community college for those in-demand jobs, people who will come back and serve our community. Another great thing is our study of our public transit system. We have to do more to bring mass transit to our area. We have to do more to get cars off the road. It's important not only for our traffic, but also for our environment. And so those were things that we will see every day, impact for our community, as well as I was very fortunate to pass a maternal health task force. In Virginia, we have an issue with maternal mortality, and so many women and families are losing loved ones. And I'm proud to start the work to look at how we can stop this trend.
Well, Delegate King, one of the things that I truly believe in our jobs is we are not here just to pass votes. We're not here just to make sure the infrastructure is okay. We're not here only, and I meant only, we're not only here to make sure that transportation provisions are made. That's the infrastructure of our jobs, if I may say it that way. But we're also here to educate the public on why we should do these things. And once we do that, how that kind of process is rolled out to the public. And so I think you do an excellent job at assuring with constituents that the education piece, by collaborating and talking to them and showing them, you do an excellent job in making sure that they are part of the process. So that's very, very key. And when you talk about the maternal health piece, that marries with a bill that Senator Kane passed in Congress last year. And I did a talk with him as well just as he was doing that. So we thank you for understanding the entire process and educating our citizenry about how things are compatible and collaborative in every way. So that's real important. So
Absolutely.
what I want you to do now, I'm sorry, please.
Oh, I wanted to add to that. We're very fortunate here to have leaders who are committed. Leaders like Senator Kane, Senator Warner, folks who are committed to
Yes.
supporting women and mothers and helping us build stronger. Which is one of the things I want to. I want to make it clear. I'm running for re-election because we need to continue this great work. The work that we started with maternal health is great, but we need a Virginia momnibus, as they call it. We need a strong investment in maternal health to make sure moms and babies are having better outcomes. And so we have to make this a priority because as we've seen in this pandemic, women are bearing the brunt. That's why I'm also proud of expanding our child care voucher program. Many women have had to leave their careers because of the pandemic. So we have to invest in families. We have to pass legislation that will empower women and families, the whole family as well.
Well, and let me just add to that. I am a mom, of course, as you are, but I'm a mom of an adult child who is very much resilient and productive in his own right. I'm very proud of him. But I believe that in your shoes and in other elected officials' shoes, the females who do have children, younger children, it's my job to support those endeavors as well. So we are passing it on to the next generation. And so I think with you and your colleagues, you do an excellent job in assuring that our babies for the next generation, they're provided for in every way. And when you talk about special needs children, I know you have a special needs child who is just a dear and a darling. And I'm very proud of the work that you've done in that regard as well. And there is, of course, a mental health piece with that as well. And so you and I have talked about that continually, about how do we make those kinds of provisions. Give us your insight on that, because as you know, that's one of the platforms that I ran on in 2019, and I am continually moving forward that platform. But enlighten us in that way, please.
Absolutely. One of the things, I am the mom, I'm the proud mom as we celebrate Autism Awareness Month. I'm the proud mom of a daughter who is nonverbal and on the autism spectrum. And, she, because of a strong support system and a great public school system, she is flourishing and she is able to contribute so much to our community. And I think that every child has the ability to do the same thing. We just have to make the investment. So one of the things that I did was I started to have conversations as soon as I was elected with local providers of healthcare. And I said to them, why don't we have pediatric specialties in our community? Why do our children who suffer with mental illness, our children who suffer debilitating conditions such as sickle cell anemia, children who suffer with cancer, they have to travel 50, 60 plus miles to DC, to Fredericksburg, to Richmond. They have to travel to receive care because we don't have enough pediatric specialties in our community. And many of those local providers have responded to the charge. They've called and said, Delegate King, we shared what you said with our doctors, and they said, we've been saying the same thing. So we have to, in the legislature, we have to go back and create the conditions and pass the legislation and funding to bring more pediatric specialty care to our community. Because when you are in a crisis, if your child is suffering from a mental health crisis, to go 56 plus 60 plus miles, to not be able to visit with them and be involved in their care because it's so far away and you have to work, it's just unconscionable to me. And it takes sometimes it takes that lived experience to really make it a priority for folks in the legislature to not, with all of the things we have going on, to not lose sight of the fact that our children, are suffering and don't have the access to care that they need.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And in addition to that, we have to focus on healthcare for women. When you talk about postpartum conditions that women often suffer from a mental health standpoint, those kinds of intricate pieces that we really don't have here in Prince William County. And so I join and lock arms with you in terms of making those types of provisions a priority, because that's so essential. It's so essential for us to be not only elevated in our careers, but have the tools and the protectiveness to continue in our careers to protect our community. So thank you so much for having that on the precipice of your platform. So I want to go back for a minute and talk about you did hit we're coming back. You're coming back from the General Assembly. You hit the ground running. You had the relationships when you got there to hit the ground running, which is very, very important when you talk about elected officials. Building relationships to get the work done is essential. But I want to talk about, with the great work that you've done to assist our community, educate our community on how that impacts our citizenry, how that affects the Potomac District specifically. Enlighten us, please.
Sure, absolutely. So representation in the community and having, government is not a sport. And I won't use any sport analogies because I'm sure to get it wrong. But what I will say is that this is not something that you can do effectively in a silo. It is not work that you can do alone. It is something that takes relationships. It takes relationships in the community, and it takes relationships in the legislature. And so I was able, through relationships and through the way I structured and approached the work, I was able to build the trust that I could speak for my community. When we had the opportunity to expand the Prince William County Health District and, give Prince William County the option to have a health department, which is very different. I was able to use my voice to say to other members, this is important to our community, to say to the governor, this is important to our community. We have to make this change. And I think those are the everyday things that, being a trusted member and having those relationships and being able to work with other people, because let's be real, we're all in this together. If our community flourishes, the communities around us, will have opportunity to do the same. So, being able to effectively communicate that and have people trust you and your motivations, because people know that for me, I vote my conscience, I vote my community, and I use my voice for my community. So, my fellow members know that if I come to them with a request or if I come to them advocating, it is because it's in the best interest of the people who I serve. No other interest, really.
Yeah, well, your authenticity and your transparency is what we need right now. And that is absolutely the way that I try to govern as well. And I totally agree with you when you talk about building trust with your colleagues and building trust with your community is so important in our today life, in a world where we're experiencing COVID, where there's so many uncertainties in our world today. The trust piece is so essential, and as well as the reliability piece and accountability piece is so important. And so I think that is a very important place that we need to stop and assess in our governing where we are as we move forward with the agenda that's needed for the community. So tell me, what do you think in respect to that trust and accountability piece? How do we grow in House District 2, in the Potomac District? How do we grow in building that trust and accountability?
I think transparency, is key. Once a week, anyone who calls my office for support or to access a state agency, once a week, I sit down and I call them personally, and I say, thank you for contacting me. I know that Lexi, my chief of staff, does a tremendous job of processing and helping process. I say, I know Lexi has worked on this with you, but I just want to reach out to you personally and say that we have you, we got your back, we're working on it. If there is a delay that is out of our control, then we're clear with that. But we have to be transparent, because this office, this seat does not belong to me. It belongs to the people. And the more we do that, the more we understand that, I get up in the morning and I like to say, I put my pants on one leg at a time, just like everyone else, right?
Yeah.
When I go down to help out with different things in the community, I'm not here for a photo op. I'm here to work. And what motivates me in that way is the way I grew up. I grew up in an environment where you helped one another,
Yes.
where you served one another. The local elected officials that I grew up with, they were serving in the community. My local mayor was also a dentist, and he came into the community and provided free dental care, because this is about also building community. It is not just political. It's not just about legislation. It's about creating community and space for us to connect and to be able to trust one another and grow our community together.
Yeah, I like what you said when you said building community and a space to connect. And I think that that is it's an opportunity for us in the Potomac District. There is continuity in the Potomac District. We have a very very eclectic and very traditional district in Potomac, where there is we have a little bit of everything in the Potomac District. Generationally, we are very diverse. Infrastructure wise, we have traditional infrastructure with opportunity for smart growth in the community. As it relates to education, we have some of the best schools in the Potomac District. Historical schools like Dumfries Elementary, for example, where the great Betty Covington was the principal, as well as, so we have a little bit of everything in the Potomac District. And so when you talk about the space to connect, one of the things I was so proud as you were running, your house sits in the middle of my district. And all you had to do was walk across the street to connect with me, as we were, campaigning, quite frankly.
Right.
But I think that's so important. I'm just using that as an example because it's so important that we understand and address that space of connectivity with our citizens. That's so important, and building a stronger community, because Potomac is a strong community. So I want you to, if you would please, talk to me about what you see some of the challenges are in that growth.
Absolutely. So, I think the pandemic in itself and navigating it, is a challenge for everyone, but it's really a challenge for the most vulnerable in our community. It's an opportunity for us to show what makes our community so special by supporting those who need the support the most. I think some of the challenges that we face are challenges that every community in Virginia is facing. How do you grow in a smart way? How do you grow in a way that is productive, that you can look back 30 years from now and be proud of the decisions that we've made. And I think it's a challenge. You know, you are a woman of vision, and sometimes vision can scare folks.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, I remember, you know, visiting the area, you know, as a child, and it looked very different. And I don't think that many people could envision that our community would turn into what it is now. But we
Yeah.
have to think about how can we invest in what's going to be, best for those who come after us.
After us.
Right? So,
Absolutely. Yeah.
you know, we have challenges. You know, it is uncomfortable to have the work done on Route 1, but it's much needed. You know, we have to be uncomfortable for a time so that we can grow in the right direction. And I think the same challenge exists when we talk about expanding our rail capacity and expanding our, you know, our different types of transportation. You know, it's uncomfortable to think about, you know, having to live through construction, but it's so necessary if we
Yes.
want to get to the place where we're not spending 2 hours in traffic every day. And you'll hear little people, they are at 9:32, what a good life. They are just getting up, and you know, I've been up for hours, so you may hear some little people in the background.
Well, that's community too, you know. That is community. So I want to just touch bases again on what you just said about vision, and sometimes vision can be a little scary. Change, of course, is uncomfortable, and I want to talk about that as it relates not just to the Potomac District, but certainly to our district, but also how it relates to Prince William County, because there are a lot of changes that's coming about. Okay, so I think I've got a message that says, I think, okay, so I'm going to keep talking. I think Delegate King was disconnected, unfortunately, but I'm going to keep talking as we bring her back in. One of the things to our great Potomac District that I sincerely focus on is making sure that in this moment of change and evolution that we are going through, that we focus on communicating. So the communication within our district is essential. I try my best to provide email blast and the newsletter and social media to make sure that I'm touching points on every community, every demographic in our community, to make sure that you are aware and you understand what we're doing in our district, and you have feedback and you have input to make me accountable as your supervisor in the district. And so I'm really focused on the communication within Potomac. So welcome back, Delegate King.
Thank you. I'm back.
That's okay. So what I was saying to the district is we really focus on, in this moment of evolution within Prince William County. And it is an evolutionary moment because there are a lot of changes that we have to educate on. There are a lot of new faces that we have to introduce and relate to. So communication is key. It's very, very key. And so the people have put us in these seats, as you so eloquently said earlier. Talk to me about how you see that communication with our district, with our Prince William County. What's the evolution of communication for us?
Absolutely. So I think that part of one of the positives of the last year has been that we can do things virtually and do them in a very effective way, as you've done with your conversations and coffee and connecting with the community. So we can use technology to connect with people and have it be very effective, right? And engaging. Also, I think through regular communication of what's happening, for my team, that's through our newsletter and through emails, which you can visit candykingforva.com to sign up for our newsletter and get information about how to get involved and volunteer. As we safely reopen, I think that is creating community space and events to celebrate milestones and to celebrate the history, the beautiful history of our community. I think that there is also an element of social media that is important to staying connected to people. People are always surprised when I respond to my own messages. I'm like, it's me. They're like, can I ask Delegate King? I'm like, sure, what's up? It's me,
It's
right?
me. Yeah.
So, I think that part, and don't get me wrong, let's keep it real. You are doing a job and you're also a business owner and a wife and a mother. And, the same thing on my side, it's difficult sometimes to be available 24/7. But
Mhm.
I think that's why it's also important to have those office hours. We have office hours once a week that
Yeah.
folks can sign up for to get time to speak with me
Mhm.
directly and to bring
Mhm.
their issues. And, for me moving forward, I plan to have legislative town halls where we can come together and people can share their ideas for legislation. This
Mhm.
year, I was very proud to pass 6 out of 7 pieces of legislation. We were only allowed to carry 7 pieces of legislation. So in 5 days, I was able to pull together 7 pieces and have 6 of them pass through the legislature and be signed by the governor. I was very proud of that. But next year, if this community sends me back to represent us, I want to take all of our legislation to Richmond. I want to have
Mhm.
those updates where we can, develop legislation together as a community.
Yes, yes. Yeah, I think that is so imperative, a touch point with the legislature, a touch point so that the community knows that we respect and we honor the fact that you sent us to represent you. What is your desire? That's always important when you're doing this type of elected and governing positions. It's always important. Um, I thought I was going to have a question coming through, but I'm going to move on to. Oh, okay. Here, I have a question for you. Um, are there one or two issues coming down the pike, other than COVID-19 related issues, that we should be aware of, and that you'd like for us to support you in your position, and tell us your position on the issue? So that was from one of our constituents, Mr. Brown. And so that partners with what I was about to ask you. How do we partner together in moving forward? That's an excellent question. Thank you, Mr. Brown.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Brown. That is an excellent question. I think that as one of the issues that we've sort of lost sight of because we are, people were in work from home mode,
Mhm.
but transportation, transportation, transportation.
Mhm, mhm.
I
Absolutely.
believe that we need multiple modes of transportation. I'm proud that we've expanded funding for VRE and that VRE will start doing more trips and start doing trips during the weekend and, being an option to get some cars off the road. But I
Mhm,
truly believe that we need to expand Metro to our community. And
mhm,
that is something that is, a very long process, but I
mhm.
believe that it is possible. And it is something that I will continue to advocate for the expand of railway in our community. And it might be through VRE, maybe it's through Metro, maybe it's through a different type, but we have to bring some sort of mass transportation to our area. So that's
Yeah.
one thing that I believe strongly, despite COVID, we need to be focusing on.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
the other which I'm very proud this year to pass legislation to support victims of human trafficking. We
Yes.
see it in the
Yes.
news all the time. And, you know, a lot of the survivors, young men and women, have a difficult time restarting their lives and regaining control of their lives. So there was two pieces of legislation I passed. One will allow victims of human trafficking to be treated differently by police than those who are perpetrating. So what has typically happened is that the code had this is one charge, right? So the people who are forcing people into human trafficking and the people who have maybe been forced into committing a crime were charged in the same way. And I think that is totally unfair. So we were able to change that in the code, as well as create a process for victims of human trafficking to have their records expunged. And, you know, as we think about community and rehabilitation and
Yes.
vulnerable people in our community, it was important to me that these young men and women have an opportunity to restart their lives and you know, reclaim their space and and gain employment and all of those things without the crime that was perpetrated against them continuing to be held over their head.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think sometimes when the issue is not raised and we don't see it right before us, then we tend to forget the importance of the issue. And so one of the things that I want to delve into with you quickly is recircling back an issue that's really near and dear to my heart that you and I have had late night talks about is mental health. The importance of that as well. When you talk about vulnerable populations, the incarcerated, when in terms of that rehabilitation, when you talk about vulnerable populations for those who are suffering from mental health, and there's no provisions here on a larger scale, some programs, but in a larger scale for our community, that becomes an issue that's not right in front of our faces, but is a paramount issue, particularly in COVID. So talk to us a little bit about our partnership in that. As you know, I'm looking to support and elevate us bringing a crisis stabilization unit here in the community. And I've talked to my colleagues about it and they're in support of it. So talk to us about your feelings about that.
I feel that we absolutely need a crisis stabilization unit here, you know, for pediatric and adult, you know, in our community suffering in silence, that
Yes.
we need to go to the legislature for funding for this, because it's a community health issue. And I think us expanding the role of the Prince William Health Department is an important step, but we need to work towards funding and building a crisis stabilization unit in this part of the county, because as we see, it is severely lacking. And, you know, that process takes time, but it's something that I'm committed to starting as soon as possible, because our young people in particular, young people living with special needs, with mental health challenges, you know, as they transition into adulthood, we need those wraparound services to help them in their time of need.
Absolutely. And I want to give accolades and kudos to our county staff who is so focused on providing those wraparound services. As you know, we're about to establish a navigation center for the homeless here in our community. And so our county staff is right on it. I mean,
Absolutely.
We're so privileged to partner with Prince William County in terms of in their Department of Social Services. Ms. Courtney Tierney, I want to shout out for you, and Lisa Madron for your great work, and your staff, all of you, for the great work that you're doing. And I know, Delegate King, that you have a partnership there as well. So let's segue into something very quickly, criminal justice reform. Let's talk about that, because I know that you also have a great working relationship with what's the guy, the president of the NAACP? I forget his name, but criminal justice reform is so important to the country as well as the county. Talk to us about your thoughts on that.
I am, as a mother of a Black child with special needs, and as a mother of a Black son, and as a mother of Black daughters as well, because our daughters are not immune to the abuse that we see and the need for reform. So I, was very proud of the legislature before. This was a little before my time, taking steps to end no-knock warrants, past, Breonna's law, and all of the great work that we've done in Virginia. But we have to go further in accountability. Because when people break the law, they are no longer worthy of wearing the title of an officer. So we have great legislation coming online that was sponsored by Delegate Torian that's going to help us get the data that we need to look at how police are operating. And I'm excited that is coming online this year, but there's more work to do, and I'm committed to doing that work. What we saw, what went viral in Virginia with the stop of the lieutenant, it's just unacceptable. And those types of people should not be able to use loopholes to go from one jurisdiction to the other.
Yeah, right? I agree. Yeah, I so agree. I'm sorry, please continue.
No, I was just going to say, and it takes community involvement. It takes community holding people accountable, but it starts with us, the elected official. So we have to change the laws that allow people to abuse their position, to abuse people, to use bias in the way they do their job. That's not the role of law enforcement. And it starts with the legislature to make those changes where we hold those folks accountable immediately. It should not take 3 months and a viral video for those officers to be held accountable for their actions. And we need to create legislation that requires localities to have independent reviews of these issues. They should not be investigating themselves, because we obviously know there are some inherent issues there. So I'm committed to criminal justice reform. I'm proud of the work that has been done, but we need to go even further.
Yeah, I'm in concert with you, and we need voices like yours to help us get to the point where we make people accountable. When I saw the video of that young officer in Windsor, Virginia, that could have been my son, my Naval Academy graduate son, as a first lieutenant, that was exposed to something so unconscionable, so unreal. That could have been my son. And so I am very much in concert with you in terms of calling it what it is and addressing it.
Race. It is racism and abuse. That is what it is, and it should be unacceptable in our law enforcement agencies. And I also want to say, and this is for everyone, really, we have to also understand the mental health impact that seeing these disturbing images has on us and our health. And our mental health. I shared on social media recently, take a breath, take a walk, hug your loved ones, take a break, because we need you in the fight.
Yeah,
we have to fight a system that is broken and unjust. We have to fight a system that is not working in a fair manner for all of us. But we also have to take care of ourselves so that we can be here to continue the fight. And so I just want folks to know that if you see what is happening, and if you feel shaken, if you feel disturbed, if it is weighing on you, we recently declared racism a public health crisis in Virginia, because it is.
Absolutely.
And it impacts all of us. So if seeing these images weigh on you, know that you are not alone. It is
Mhm.
weighing on many of us. It is disturbing many of us, and we have to take care of ourselves and continue to fight against it.
I agree with you. And, again, Prince William County, I was having a meeting with our county exec, and I congratulated him on the fact that it takes courage to take the next step, as we all know as elected officials. And I congratulated him on hiring our new diversity and inclusion director, Ms. Maria Burgos. And if the community does not know that, we do have a diversity and inclusion director, Ms. Maria Burgos. And Ms. Burgos is very seasoned in that she worked with the school board, the Prince William County School Board, and now she's working with the county to assure that diversity and inclusion is paramount in how we govern and how we support our communities. And so when you talk about racism, we have to have the courage to make those hires. We have to have the courage to take those next steps to heal the land and make it holistic again. And so I know that is, of course, one of your desires as well as when you talk about criminal justice reform. We just hired a new police chief. And the hire was not, and I have to be very transparent, a popular hire, but the police chief, Chief Newsham, and myself in our community, and I know that that's paramount on your mind as well, we are committed to making criminal justice reform, that reformation become even heightened in our community. And Prince William County is very fortunate in that we do have a very stable and good police department, but we can be better. We can be better. And so I just wanted to offer that to the community. If you have comments on that, Delegate King, please do. But I wanted to offer that to the community.
Well, I will say, like many people in the community, I was extremely concerned about the hiring of the new police chief, but I'm committed to holding him accountable.
Yes, yes.
That same accountability that I have placed upon myself to be accountable to my community, the chief has to be accountable as well.
Absolutely.
I work with young people every day. I see officers in our school system, some of them, many of them doing the right thing, but some of them are not.
Mm-hmm.
That has to be addressed.
Mm-hmm.
We need to be putting funding in our school system, not to police our children, but to educate our children. And anyone who is working towards that goal, towards building a Prince William where our children are educated and protected and not charged with frivolous charges because of an argument. I've had students who were involved in arguments and charged with reckless whatever, and and starting them down a path, because there is a preschool to prison pipeline. So I'm committed to working with anyone who understands the truth of our community. And the truth is, all of us are not being treated fairly.
Yeah.
And so, while, like many people in the community, I initially question, and I tell people, I try to stay out of local, I am not the one to say the board should be doing this and they should be doing that, because the people elected you to do the work. And I trust you all to do the work. But I shared concerns about that hire. I am committed to accountability. We need more accountability, and my laser focus is on in our school system.
Yes.
We have to have more funding for resources, not policing in our schools. And
Absolutely.
so I part of working in the legislature is being able to work with people, and we have to work together towards that goal. And if at any point we're not on that page, then that's another conversation. Something got to change, right?
That's right. That's right.
I'm committed to that. I know that it's a difficult decision to make, but if we're committed to bringing true reform to our community, I can work with you.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. And when you talk about bringing resources to our schools, I think that as a county, we really have done a yeoman's job in doing so. We have, as you know, we've just hired a new, the school environment has just hired a new school superintendent, Miss Latanya McDade from Chicago. And so we can only expect greater things with our school system, taking the baton from our former school superintendent, Dr. Waltz, and then moving forward with Dr. McDade. I think we are going to go even higher. So thank you for making that comment. I want to close out. We've got about 2 or 3 more minutes. I want to call, and let me give you a compliment that I just saw on the screen. And the screen says, "I will forever support you, Delegate King, because I trust you." So
that is so nice.
isn't that nice? You have to, we as elected officials, we get beat up a little bit, but every now and then we want to hear just a little accolade if we can get it. If not, we'll keep working. We'll keep working.
Listen,
So,
you gotta take the bitter with the sweet.
yeah, you do. You got to take the bitter with the sweet. I want to close out with this question because I so appreciate your leadership and the respect that we have for one another and getting the work done. How can we in the Potomac District, I, as your supervisor, support and partner with you in moving forward?
Absolutely. That is a great question. And thank you so much for having me on this chat today. I think this is such an amazing platform. I aspire to this level of
Oh, bless your heart.
organization and presentation. They call you Supervisor Bailey, but I don't know if they should add a Oprah instead of Andrea, or if you're looking for another career, this is definitely it because you're such a masterful communicator. So
Thank you.
thank you so much for having me. I think partnering is a great question. We are all in this together. I need people to visit candykingforva.com, and we'll put that in the chat. I need your partnership in ideas. I need your partnership in sharing experiences. I need your partnership in accountability. Often we don't know what is happening with one another or in different communities. The second district is from along Route 1 from the Prince William, from Belmont Bay through Northern Stafford. So this is a very diverse district. And I need to understand what is impacting the daily lives of our district so I can use my voice and my legislative activities to support that. So we have some great opportunities moving forward as we come out of the pandemic, but I want to make sure it's the right opportunities for the
Yes.
community.
Yes.
So please stay in touch with me through my website. And, this takes consistency. I feel very fortunate and humbled to fill this seat through the end of December, but it's important, I believe, to continue this work, which is why I'm running for reelection. So early voting starts on April 23rd. I will be honored to have your vote. Election day is June 8th. April 23rd, you can start voting at the Ferlazzo Building in Prince William County, at the registrar's office, and at the courthouse in Stafford County. I would love to have your vote to continue this work, because a vote for me is a vote for working families having a seat at the table. It's a vote for moms having a seat at the table. It's a vote for progress. It's a vote for smart growth in our community. And it's a vote for someone who will always vote this community and always vote my conscience. So I made promises in January. I've kept those promises, and I want to continue that work. So I need your support. Bring a friend, spread the word that we have another election. I'm in a unique position where I have to run maybe 3 times in 365 days. But I believe in this community. I believe that together we can do so many great things and bring all of the needed resources to our community. And I think it's worth fighting for. So I don't mind running 3 times in 365 days, but I need your support to go back to Richmond and continue the work.
Thank you so much, Delegate King. And we appreciate you. Ladies and gentlemen, your delegate for the House District 2 in the Potomac District, Delegate Candi King. Want to thank you all for joining us this morning. We know it was early. Hope you had your coffee before and during, and look forward to seeing you in the community as we get the work done together. Thank you.